You know, Kirk left all twittery this morning, and I said, what are you all twittery about this morning? He said, I love the music we're doing this morning. He said, I like all the music, but I really love this music. The goodness of God, you can just feel it, can't you? You can feel it in your soul and expressing, it's around us here now and all the time. The beautiful German 12th, 13th century mystic and philosopher Meister Eckhart said, goodness is the name of God. It's the name of God. Goodness, that's what it is. He has another sentence there. He said, whenever we talk about God, the Creator, we are talking about goodness. So I want to remember that. And I'm going to do a little explanation of goodness. The goodness doesn't mean everything is good all the time. In the creation story, after God had created everything and saw it was good, God was very excited. It's good, but it was only in its infancy. To me, goodness that we sing about, we dance about, we think about, we pray about, is the goodness of the infinite potential and creativity that lives in all of us. It doesn't live in some of us, it lives in all of us. The goodness of God, God doesn't play favorites. God didn't give some of us more good than others, but we can express it in different degrees because in unity, we're all one, which is what we know. We all come from the same source, the same energy. We are all one. But there's variety in our oneness, and we can share goodness and have goodness in different degrees and different ways. So I want you to think, whatever is going on in our life, there's that potential for something more. In fact, Ernest Holmes said, you must be more if you want to express more goodness in your life. You must be more. So that there's that divine urge in us. Do you know why we're here, I believe? I believe that we're created to express that goodness, that potentiality. We are the way that God knows itself because it doesn't have hands or legs. Lots of intelligence, lots of creativity, but we're here to express that. So in our life, it's about learning more and more and more how to express goodness, creativity, and possibility. Saint Francis of Assisi, the Italian mystic who lived about the same time as Meister Eckhart, said there are beautiful and wild forces within you. Beautiful and wild forces within us. You know, there's only that one power that wants to be expressed. That one power. Well, some of us say, well, there's a power for good and a power for evil, but that's not true. There's only one power for good, but sometimes we turn it upside down, right? We turn it upside down and it doesn't feel so good or look so good. But we have that same power to turn it right side up. We get patterns of thought that we create in our lifetime. And our patterns of thought really determine how we experience the world. So I'm just going to ask you a quick question. When you look in the mirror, what do you see? Come on, I want to see some smiles. Some smiles, please, because our pattern of thought is either going to teach us to look for what's wrong, or it's going to say, oh, what's possible? What could I do to make things better? Or it's going to start to look for what's right. We have these patterns of thought that really direct our thinking. And I'm going to invite us this morning to rearrange our thoughts so they lean towards the goodness. Not my necklace, but our thoughts. Lean towards the goodness of life, because we can do that. We need to train those thoughts to know no matter what's going on in this world of ours, that there's that potential and possibility within us that wants to be expressed. I'll give you an example, not quite as fun as Dave's, but this was from long ago, let's say 400 years ago, in Southwest America, in the US, in the Southwest. It was the Navajo people, and they were having great tests in life. Tests by the earth, tests by nature, tests by the surrounding tribe. There was just a continuing difficult drought. There was this intense heat and a lack of food, and they were suffering. But there was something in them that knew there was something more that wanted to happen. And they realized that those tests that were testing them with great suffering, great difficulty, and great challenges, there were also the tests that were calling from them to dive deep and find their great inner strength and their possibility. And I think you and I have all had those experiences where we've been tested beyond what we thought we could ever be tested. And once we could figure out and be in the suffering and the problem, we could realize there was great wisdom and understanding that wanted to be born from that. So what the Navajo tribe people realized is they were the decision makers. And they were the ones to decide what to do with that suffering and how to bring out a greater good. But they had to find a belief in them, in their inner strength, that would give them the inner strength to keep going on. And that belief was the goodness of God. And the belief was that there was one power, and that in its extremes it was suffering, but on the other end of suffering was wisdom. And I know that we've all learned that when we can look at our suffering and make sense of it, find some understanding, we can turn that into wisdom. So wisdom is expressed healing from suffering. It can be. It's not always that, but it can be that. And we get to do that. We get to find the wisdom in our situations so we can deal with them better when we tap into that potential. But that takes me to the next step. If we're going to find that inner belief like the Navajos did, we have to have conscious cooperation with something greater than we are. We have to know there's something more. When I read the quote by Ernest, or said the quote by Ernest, we have to be more. We have to expand into a greater knowing that there's something more that wants to express as us. We have to know that. So conscious cooperation with the divine and with each other. You know, I don't know what I would have done this week, because we can find God, of course, in our prayers and in our practices, but we can find God in our friends and in each other. And I was just having a little bumpy week this week. And we've had our caring circle. Actually, the caring circle we have is the first one. It was not the caring circle then, it was a small group. We've had that circle for 10, 12 years. And these people have become friends. And we can talk about things anybody in a caring circle knows. And Rob, thank you for taking over the small groups and turning them into caring circles and expanding the whole program. But the people in those circles, we learned to go deeper in those circles and talk. And I was able to talk to friends who could support me and hold me so I could find that place within. We're not in this life alone. And friends, and of course prayer, our spiritual practices, but on the other end of that, we can find God in our friends and people who truly care about us and will listen. Because I don't know about you, but this world can be heavy at times. You know, we get wound up, we get caught, and our mind stumbles in the confusion and the chaos of this physical world. And we need to find ways to move beyond that. So I thank you just for this beautiful community and for just this all these connections we've built and a wonderful cushion for us. But we get to find ways to move into a greater understanding. My daughter and I are taking the Intro to the Virtues program. It's just the first step of becoming a virtues facilitator. And thank you, Dave, for reading the Virtue for Today courtesy. But the Virtues Project, we've established for a year-long program here at the center. We are so committed to creating a world where everyone belongs, creating a world that works for everyone. And this program, the Virtues Project, is accepted by the United Nations as a character-building program for all ethnicities, religions, and cultures. And in this program we're doing, I'm only on my first of 7 weeks, but we have to do a journal every day where we start with RPMS. And every morning in our journal, we have to start with one of those, either a spiritual reading that ignites our soul, or a prayer that connects us with God, or meditation, which calms our minds and opens us up to greater good, or an act of service. We have to start with one of those 4 things. And that way we start our day cleansing and freeing ourselves. Ernest Holmes says, to truly clear your mind and be open to the greater good, you have to daily wash your mind and thoughts, daily, of the troubles, mistakes, and fears that have accumulated. And that is the first 2 steps. When he says it, you have to, first of all, the first step of prayer is we have to still our mind and accept the goodness that God is all there is, but love is all there is, spirit is all there is, whatever word you love to use. Just open your mind and know that's the truth, and just sit there until your mind is still and your heart is open. That's the first thing you need to do. And the second thing you need to do is accept your oneness with that energy, that light, that goodness. Accept your energy with that and know it's right here. And at first you might feel a little separate from that goodness all over, but the longer you sit there and own it, you merge with it until you can start the day fresh and new. And that's the idea. We are in the business of transformation. And that's the start, every day committing. We have to roll our sleeves up. When we make that conscious connection with spirit and that divine urge within us, which is that potential that wants to express as us, we're in the transformation business. And of course, again, the quote by Ernest Holmes, we must become more if we wish to experience and draw greater good into our life. But that reminds me of the quote from the Apostle Paul in the letter he wrote to the Romans, when he said, do not conform to the pattern of this world. It can be too crazy, too difficult. I'll just ad-lib, don't worry. But it can be too crazy, too difficult. It can be too hard. Don't conform to that. Conform by transforming yourself by the renewing of your mind. When you do, you can prove the goodness of God. You can prove it. It's good, it's good. So we're going to do our prayer now, our prayer wall right here. So we're going to practice all of that. And again, I'm going to take the Navajo traditions because their spirituality came from the earth and the universe. And when they wouldn't pray for rain, they would pray rain. And so when they had the drought and the difficulties, they wouldn't pray for rain. They would pray to know the rain. They knew you couldn't just think it in your head. You had to feel it in your heart. So when they prayed rain, they would quiet their minds, and first of all, they'd feel the rain. And then they'd let the rain experience. They'd experience the rain either through dancing or singing. They would experience it, and they would just know that it was done, that it was here. They'd just know it. It's kind of like our 5-step prayer. So today, we're going to do that. I want you to take something in your life that you want to experience right now. It may be improved physical health. It may be abundance. It may be the perfect partner. It may be the success of a project. It may be something else. But I'm going to ask you what I do when we do this. I want you to just open yourself. Just open yourself right now. I don't want your legs crossed and arms crossed, because then you're not open to the goodness that's there. Just open yourself, and if you're with me, just close your eyes. I let my mind rest on my heart to quiet my mind so I'm open and available, and just feel the experience you wish to have. Just feel it right now. And then allow yourself to be in your life as if it were done. Just to experience it. Just live it. Allow it. Become it. So it's just, you are immersed in something bigger right now. You can feel it moving through you as you in this moment. Just feel it vibrating. I call it the white sparklies of God's love. I just feel it throughout my whole body. It's the God bumps, I call them, is when I feel the prayer really activated in me. And just know together that it is already done. Just, it is already done. That oneness has been embodied. It's running through you right now, as you, for you, in this moment. And let's just seal that by knowing together. And so it is. Thank you for being the prayer wall this morning. Thank you, thank you. And just closing, and this is in a little, it's kind of a preface to our presentation a little later. Once we've accepted the good in our life, we don't have to accept all of it, but just accepted it to the best of our knowing in that moment, the best we can. We have to share that good. Goodness is here to be shared. Just as I said, friendship shares good, being there for people, being there in love, that shares it. We have to be it, whatever we have at that moment. We may not feel totally wonderful ourselves, but we want to share it and show others. As Dave was sharing, people shared kindness, courtesy, and love, and it didn't just affect the small groups that were there. It was extended to everyone that participated. It's contagious. Like I said, the song. So I'm going to speak to you. Goodness, unleashing our goodness, speaks generosity. But I want to read a piece from the Bible called The Widow's Offering. Jesus sat down opposite the place where the offerings were put and watched the crowd putting their money in the temple treasury, which was really the offering basket at the door. Many rich people were very generous and gave a lot of money, but a poor widow quietly slipped in and put 2 very small copper coins into the treasury. They were only worth 1/3 of a cent, 1/64 of a day's wages. This humble widow, poorly dressed, sorry that she could not give more, gave her tiny gift and slipped away, hoping that she had not been noticed. But she was. Jesus called his disciples to him and said, truly I tell you, this poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others. This woman was not poor. Her circumstances were poor, but she was whole, complete, kind, loving, and generous. I'm going to follow that by a quote by Desmond Tutu. And he said, do your little bit of good where you are, for those little bits of good put together are things that overwhelm the world. Overwhelm the world when we put our goodness together. Whatever piece we have to give, to share, to do, we can truly create together a world that works for everyone. We're in this together. I feel so blessed that we can share our love, we can be together, and we can truly create a world that works. It's a really good thing. Thank you for being part of my tribe. Thank you. I feel so blessed. I love you all. We're in this circle together, and so it is. Thank you.